Hello and welcome to Solidarity, the Resource Center's podcast at UCSC. The purpose of Solidarity is to uplift the voices and actions of students who work at the Resource Centers or with student organizations. I'm Mark. I use he, his pronouns. I'm an intern with the ERC who will be hosting today's episode. Yuya, who is in the background, is the other ERC intern who will be helping with video editing and much needed tech support. Please note that the opinions and views expressed in today's episode are of the individuals and do not necessarily reflect the views of the UCSC Resource Centers. Today's episode is titled Restorative Care. And if I could have either Anna or Allison go off or start off and introduce themselves with their name, their title, and pronouns, identities, all of this sort. Either can go first.
Okay. I'm Anna. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a peer educator for the Counseling and Psychological Services Department at UC Santa Cruz.
And then I'm Allison Dean. My pronouns are she, her, they, them pronouns. And I was a former care community support intern. I'm still working within the office, but I'm kind of phasing out of my role, but I've worked in the office for about 2 years.
As many of us are returning back to campus after 16 months of online instruction, we are carrying the anxieties of the unknown. We are coming out of a year that has been marked by restriction and hypervigilance. We experience and are still experiencing a pandemic, social movement, political unrest, and the effects of global warming, all the while attending class every day. So as a result, many of us are anxious about returning to in-person and seeing what that's going to be like. So in today's episode, we're joined by our peers from Campus Advocacy, Resource and Education Care, and Counseling and Psychological Services, CAPS, to provide their insight on self-care before and during in-person instruction. So going into question number one, could y'all introduce CARE and CAPS and talk about the communities y'all serve, mission statements and services provided, etc.? And I guess, Anna, would you like to start off with this one?
Sure. Okay, I'm Anna, and like I said before, I'm a CAPS peer educator on campus. So what I do along with a group of students is we try and destigmatize mental health, primarily through connecting with students and sharing all of the great resources that CAPS provides them. So we try to connect students in a variety of different ways. So we table on campus, we do workshops, and we also try to have like our social media presence. Our Instagram is at UCSC CAPS PEP. And just before talking about the services, I wanted to just make a disclaimer that all enrolled students at UC Santa Cruz can use any CAPS resources for free. They do not need to have UC SHIP insurance to use the resources, and I think that's a misconception that a lot of students have. But yeah, so getting into the services that CAPS provides, so there's individual therapy, group therapy, anxiety toolboxes, which are composed of 3 different sessions where students and a psychologist work in a group setting to manage anxiety and gain tools on helping with that. And then there's also drop-in counseling called Let's Talk, where students can drop in. Now it's over Zoom, so there's a Zoom link, and you can speak with a licensed psychologist about any problem that you're going through. And it's not a scheduled appointment. You'll just get advice. But with individual therapy, group therapy, and anxiety toolboxes, you can call the CAPS number at 831-459-2628 to set up your initial assessment appointment for individual therapy and to just join group therapy or the anxiety toolboxes. And like I said before, Let's Talk, there's a Zoom link. You can go to the CAPS website and find that. And there's different days and times for every quarter. And there's also different communities for Let's Talk. So there's immigrant talk, Black talk, grad talk. So if any students identify with these communities, you can check out the links on the CAPS website. But yeah, I think that's just my intro.
Cool. And everything's going to be linked down below in the description, just a heads up. Okay, Allison.
Yeah, so I'm from the CARE office. The CARE office is a confidential space on campus, and it's designed to discuss issues of dating violence, sexual assault, and stalking. So mostly the mission of CARE is to create an environment that is free from violence. So we promote an environment where people can learn and work while being safe and healthy. And CARE does this through primary and tertiary work. So we provide support, advocacy resources, and violence prevention education to the UC community. What our advocacy services offer. So we have our advocates in our office who can provide you with confidential support, crisis intervention, academic support, housing and school accommodation, safety planning, case management. We also have our primary prevention education team, which is composed mostly of interns. And what they do is we do tabling, workshops, programming so that we can provide violence prevention education. We respond to the needs of students, staff, faculty, and non-affiliates, everyone who is impacted. You can also utilize CARE services if you're a friend or family member of someone who has been impacted by stalking, dating violence, or domestic abuse or sexual assault. So there's a lot of different things that our office does. We have a lot of programs. Ones that stand out mostly, we do have ambassador trainings that happen every quarter for students to be involved. And we also have our survivor circles, which are kind of like support groups for folks to drop in on. Those are kind of our events that happen every year that people can be involved in. So yeah.
One major factor that many folks, including myself, have felt and are still experiencing is burnout. So the definition for burnout is a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged stress. And this could be multiple factors. It could be I feel like a lot of folks are going through Zoom burnout right now, with class being so repetitive or like back to back to back. But anyways, back to the question and saying this, what are some advice that y'all have when it comes to dealing with burnout and making sure that folks stay motivated, and especially in cases like mine, hopefully not getting stuck in a cycle of procrastinating?
Burnout is definitely something I think a lot of college students experience. And there's maybe this idea that because we're in college and we're working so hard and there's this stigma and stereotyping about what college is, we're supposed to take a bunch of classes, do our jobs, do our homework, stay up until 3 a.m. working, get up at 8 a.m. the next day to continue to do classes. And I don't think that that's viable for anyone. And maybe that's something that needs to be talked about at a larger level. But advice I would have is definitely to kind of take time away from your regular schedule to do something that makes you feel really invigorated, something that makes you feel relaxed. Doesn't have to be, we think of self-care as I'm going to take a minute away to like do a face mask or something. That's not necessarily what it has to be. It could be, I'm going to go ride my bike or take a walk after class to kind of get away. I'm going to say no when my work asks me to pick up another shift. Like that's just not something I can do. Or if someone asks me to be a lead on a group project, I'm going to take a step back if I'm feeling that overwhelmed sensation, because you cannot work as your best self when you're not prioritizing your needs, number one. So, yeah.
I really love the advice that Allison gave. That was great. And I think I also agree with what Allison was saying, how as students, we just take back-to-back classes. We are involved in work, different meetings. And I think at least for me, I got caught up in a cycle of just doing classes, all that stuff. I forgot about the end goal, after graduating, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I think maybe if students are experiencing burnout, try to reassess what their goal is, or what they're passionate about. That really helped for me. But also I think taking breaks throughout the day really helps, especially if you're doing online classes or even in-person classes, it gets really tiring. I like to like listen to music or journal or eat something. And I also do these like meditations before bed. They really calm me down and they make it a lot easier to fall asleep. But yeah, I guess that's my advice.
Thank you both so much for saying that. I think one major thing that I relate to both is especially because like in college when going in, one major thing that a lot of our peers or that were like taught to us or professors try to instill in us is like time management. And like a lot of us try to like work on that, but then there's like negative consequences as a result because we try to pack on as much as we can within like a specific time frame as a result. But one thing that isn't like said a lot is like sticking up for your own mental health and like knowing your limits. And that is definitely something that we should start instilling that sense within ourselves, especially in undergrad, because like big picture, when we're all out in the quote unquote real world, that is something really important because there's going to be multiple scenarios or opportunities, well, not opportunities, but like situations where we are going to feel burnout. And sometimes it's nice, well, it will be nice for folks to like, maybe have that idea in their head, like, oh, I need to start prioritizing me, like my own personal time and like my mental health above being effective with my time or like having quote unquote like good time management, where sometimes that is not the best. But anyways, thank you both. Moving on to question 3. Another variable or source that could cause anxiety could be social stress. Many folks might be anxious about the possibility of feeling rusty at interacting with each other, like with our peers, especially since it's been a while since I feel like, well, especially me, like since I've had to interact with other people since we've all been in quarantine. And or maybe like folks might not feel safe in certain group gatherings due to the possibility that they could get sick, or even the possibility that they might experience xenophobia. What advice would y'all have for our listeners when it comes to addressing their social anxieties, and what resources would y'all recommend to our listeners who are anxious about the potential of experiencing xenophobia or have experienced it or know of peers that have experienced xenophobia and might be looking for certain resources on or around campus?
Well, I think everyone is in the same boat. Like everyone is rusty getting back, even if we've been on campus before. There are like first and second years who haven't been on campus probably. But just reminding us that like everyone is in the same boat. Everyone wants connection or is looking for that, I think. But something that I would probably tell myself at the start of like my undergrad career or whatever is that it takes time to find the right people. I think that the people that I interacted with on the first week, like some of them I know still, but it took me a while to find people that I really connected with and that I became like great friends with. So I think just reminding everyone that it takes time to find the right people and just keep trying. It can be really intimidating, especially when like you're on campus and there's so many students you're seeing, but you're not actually connecting with them or like having conversations with them. It can be a little bit isolating, or at least feels that way. But I think making it a priority to reach out to people or say hi to someone that you recognize from a class. I think that makes a really big difference. And even though I'm like super shy and an introvert, but I've tried that and it works.
Yeah, I think a lot of that can be echoed. Definitely the fears and the feeling that everyone's in the same boat. Like we're all experiencing this. I'm a fourth year and I'm experiencing this. I'm like, I don't know how to talk to people anymore. This is really strange. So just keeping in mind that the people around you are probably experiencing the same thing you are is definitely really important. Um, and social anxieties when it comes to potentially getting sick, just knowing what your boundaries are and understanding that that's very respectable. If you're not comfortable being in a large group, that's totally fine. If you are comfortable being in a large group, just making sure you're respecting other people's boundaries, you're respecting, CDC guidelines, school guidelines, whatever's in place to make sure that the people around you are comfortable. Because just for me personally, I'm not comfortable if other people are not comfortable. And I think that's maybe something we should start to keep in mind a lot more, especially post pandemic and when we're moving back into school. Like, just be respectful of other people, their boundaries, their wishes. And that will definitely give an opportunity for you to get to know people a lot better. And like Anna said, clubs, organizations, I think a lot of people are really excited for all of those things to be running again. So there's going to be tons of opportunities, um, which are always going to be great ways to get to know people. And again, like she said, don't be disappointed if the people you meet first aren't the people that you end up staying with the entire time. You can meet a lot of great people. It doesn't mean you have to be friends for life. You'll find your group eventually. I didn't find the people that I'm still friends with until like late into my first year, but I still have them, so it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah, and definitely building off of both of y'all's points is just don't get discouraged if you quote unquote don't find your quote unquote group within the first week. Um, you'll definitely find your group and the people that you identified the most with eventually. It's UCSC is a big school, but um, if y'all are interested in the same things, usually your paths will cross eventually. What are some advice that you have for our listeners who want to best support their peers during this time, whether it be creating safe space, respecting certain folks' boundaries, etc.?
I feel like creating safe spaces and respecting boundaries are really vital because we've expected other people to do the same to us. So we need to make sure we're doing that for them. Um, Following all the rules, asking questions, I think, also helps. If you're a person who feels comfortable in social settings, to kind of ask people's questions about boundaries, like, hey, is everyone vaccinated here? Hey, are you cool if I take off my mask? Those kind of questions, I think, kind of ease everyone's tensions. Um, and I think something also to consider that we haven't really talked about before the pandemic, but I think is really crucial now, is understanding the privileges that we might have as able-bodied people. If you are a person who is able-bodied, you do have a lot of privilege when it comes to how you interact with people and how you interact with the pandemic. Because I know a lot of people who aren't able to, you know, exist in their daily lives the same way, and they have to take a lot of precaution that a lot of people don't really consider. So making sure those things are recognized. If you're a white person in a position, your body is different. Make sure you're respecting people's identities and understanding your privilege when interacting with them and how they might be interpreting those social settings. Um, and I think you can even create safe spaces online. It's still something that we're able to do despite the fact that we're kind of doing this hybrid. People still are online. A lot of folks aren't on campus and maybe might feel left out from what's happening at UCSC. So making those safe spaces online, I think, is also really vital. And making sure you just like check in with the people you care about to make sure that everyone's doing okay, everyone's feeling good, and recognizing those signs when someone might need a little extra support.
Yeah, I loved everything that Allison said, just following the rules, checking in with people, and also just like, I think I said this before, but if you see someone on campus that, or you continually like keep seeing people on campus that are like, they look lonely or like they are not talking to anyone, just maybe try and reach out or say hi or something, because I think there are people who don't know how to make friends or not as comfortable reaching out to people. And I think that the past year and a half or however long it has been hard for everyone, and isolating, of course. But the best thing that we can do is to support each other on campus and just be kind and understanding.
Thank y'all both on that. Definitely main points are respecting other folks' boundaries, as well as I really like the point that you brought up too, Allison, with understanding your privilege of how certain folks definitely are still experiencing the pandemic differently compared to a lot of other folks, and be aware of that and definitely be accommodating of that fact. And moving on to our last question, any upcoming events, services, or resources on campus or around the broader community? This doesn't have to be specifically with CARE or CAPS, but if you would like to highlight certain CARE or CAPS events, you're more than welcome to. But anyways, any certain events or services that y'all would like to highlight? I know y'all kind of did this in the intro, but like we can just bring it back again. And I think, Anna, would you like to start off with this one?
Yeah, I outlined most of them in the intro, but CAPS will be tabling on campus. So if anyone's on campus and sees the CAPS table, feel free to come up to us, ask questions. We'd love to talk.
So I mentioned we have the CARE Survivor Circles. Those happen Wednesdays from 3 to 4:30, and they're on Zoom. And we have some more information about that on our Instagram, which is UC Santa Cruz _care. We also have a fall prevention series going on our Instagram right now that highlights a lot of self-care, restorative care tactics. We have our ambassador training in the fall. I don't have a date for that, but it is virtual. And that information is also on Instagram and on our website. And we have our advocacy services. They can be in person if that's something that folks do need to access. And we have expanded into a Spanish bilingual program. So our advocates are trained in that as well. And the last thing I guess I wanted to add is that I had mentioned something about like online spaces for survivors and for folks to kind of connect. We're also going to be launching an online forum for folks to register with. So there's like a few things that we have going on that I'm really excited to see happen. And a lot of it, we have been working with self-care. I think that's just something that everyone is really focused on right now, which is great. So, yeah.
Cool. And just like that, we have come to an end of our conversation. I want to extend another thank you to Anna and Allison for joining us in such a special episode, as well as extending a thank you to Desiree. Hopefully you're still working. I know she just graduated, but Desiree, Yuyao, Cameron, Abby, and Kaz for all the work that they've been putting through behind the scenes. For more reading materials, as well as all the links that we talked about, or resources that we talked about, feel free to check out the links in the description. We've all had quite the year, so make sure to always take some time for yourselves. Definitely learn to put mental health as a priority, respect other folks' boundaries, everything that we said in this episode. Mental health should be a priority though. But anyways, if you enjoyed listening to the conversation that we had today, and would like to hear more, feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank y'all so much. Please get vaccinated, and make sure to fill out your COVID symptom screening survey. And I hope to see everyone's beautiful faces on campus. Thank you.